Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Today is January 20th, 2025. Get everything all set up. All right. How was your weekend? How was your week? I haven't seen you since early last week. Can you hear me all right? Let me know before I dive in. This is week 3 of month 10 of Masterplan 365. We're covering team dynamics today. Welcome, welcome. If you are new, I'm Jane. I'm the CEO and founder of janesagenda.com. We build planners that actually work. And this is Masterplan 365. It's our productivity training course. You can find anything I'm talking about at janesagenda.com/masterplan. All right. So I hope your week went well. I was at a business mastermind, and so I was filling my brain all week. Let's turn that banner off. There we go. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Tina. Hi, Tammy. All right. So today we're talking about team dynamics. I'm going to see if I can't throw a little bit of extra in here from what I planned. We'll see if we have time today, because I have even more information after my mastermind last week. Yesterday, I was in my pajamas all day. All right. So let's see here. All right, let's dive in. So today we're going to be talking about team dynamics. We're going to be talking about the core elements of team dynamics. Let me make sure my screens are where I can see them here. Okay. We're going to be talking about the core elements of team dynamics and how they impact performance. We're going to learn strategies for managing conflict within teams. That's always fun. And I think some of these, you're going to hear that the skills are going to be really helpful, whether you're the team leader or just a part of a team. We're going to explore strategies for improving communication and gain insight on how to foster psychological safety within your team. Good morning, Calissa. Navigating team dynamics is essential for any leader because teams are constantly evolving, and understanding these dynamics is going to help you lead with confidence and foster better collaboration. All right. Good morning. So let's talk about what are team dynamics. Team dynamics refer to the psychological and behavioral interactions within a team. Basically, it's just how the team gets along. These team dynamics influence how team members work together, how they communicate, and how they resolve conflicts. Healthy team dynamics contribute to higher productivity, innovation, and team satisfaction. I like to think of team dynamics, though, as a living, breathing creature. All right. Just because it's good one day doesn't mean tomorrow it's going to be good. And so these skills that we want to put in our toolbox, our tools in our toolbox, these are things that we're going to not only use over and over again, but they also need to adapt over time. There are some different factors that influence team dynamics. So let's cover those real quick so you understand what I'm talking about. The first one is team roles. So team roles can be those that are assigned, like certain supervisor roles, things like that, that you already know what the person is supposed to be doing, but it can also be just naturally assumed. Anyone ever heard of the term unofficial leader? Good morning, Tanisha. An unofficial leader is just as important as an official leader in the way that they can direct the morale and the culture of a company or a team. Super important. These can be facilitators. They can be supporters in your team. They don't actually have to be a supervisor to play this integral role. If you work in a company with multiple team members, I bet you can think of someone who you would consider an unofficial leader, someone who maybe didn't get the leader title. They aren't officially a supervisor or manager or anything like that, but they're the person that people go to. Okay, they're the one that people are going to go to if they have a problem, need advice, need training. You know you can count on them. They've got your shoulder when you're sad, right? That kind of person. That's an unofficial leader. And if you have somebody who's an unofficial leader within your team, we need to be aware of that. It's a crucial role that pops up in teams with multiple people, and you don't get to pick them. You don't get to pick who the unofficial leader is. That's why they're unofficial. And so we need to make sure that we're aware if that's happening. All right, the next part is communication patterns. How does your team communicate? Do you feel like they communicate in a clear manner? Or is there constant confusion and misinterpretation? We need to know this to be able to make decisions. What do the power dynamics look like? Are there certain people that just dominate the conversation, right? In a meeting, is that person, that unofficial leader, the one standing up and taking all of the air in the room, or is there somebody else? Do you feel like everybody gets an equal say in meetings or discussions? Does everyone feel equally valued? Those are power dynamics. And then the last factor that influences team dynamics is conflict resolution. How does your team handle disagreements? Is conflict addressed constructively, or is it just ignored? Does everyone let it fester? We have done a lot of work within the Jane's Agenda team to be comfortable with conflict. We try really hard to be honest and open, even when something bothers us and it hurts to have to say it, right? Nobody wants to cause a scene, but if someone gets their feelings hurt, you want to know you hurt their feelings so you can make it better. And so once we started being more open about when something was bothering us, the entire team got healthier that way. All right, so again, those 4 factors were team roles, communication patterns, power dynamics, and conflict resolution. All right, now let's talk about some stages of team development. I'm going to give you one first, and then I'd like to, if we have time, give you another version of this, because I think depending on your type of team, you might be able to resonate with one or the other. I wish I had a graphic for you. I might be able to throw one on the screen. All right. So what I'm going to go over is called Tuckman's stages of team development. This is the first one we're going to talk about. Every team moves through these stages. The first stage is forming. This is when team members are their most polite, right? They are focusing on getting to know each other. You haven't built trust yet, and so conflicts are rare because everybody's not being as open yet. This is the church face that everybody puts on, right? That's that beginning stage of team development. It's called forming. The second stage is called storming. As people start expressing, yes, honeymoon phase, exactly. That's the nicest you're ever going to be, but it's the least honest, okay? Because you're not ready to show who you really are yet to these brand new people. Storming is the second stage. This is where people start expressing their concerns, their opinions, conflicts and disagreements start to emerge. This is a challenging stage, but it's essential for team growth. This happens in marriages too, I think, right? You start to get a little more comfortable with each other, and so you're fine expressing your opinions and saying all the things that might offend each other because you're no longer worried about everyone just walking away. Norming is the third stage. I did not name these, by the way, don't judge me. Norming, after successfully navigating some conflicts, the team starts to get into this gel phase where they start to get along. They understand who is who. They know your background a little bit. They start to trust you a little more. And so this is like we're coming out of that conflict stage. All right. Apparently church face. You know what I mean, right? All right. Performing is stage 4. This is going to be when the team is now working at its highest level. Collaboration is strong and the team is focused on achieving its goals, right? So we're finally starting to get into the groove together. Safona, welcome. This is a good way to think about, like, now your team is going to start performing. And so the 5th stage is called adjourning. This is when the team disbands after completing a project. The team reflects on its successes and lessons learned. So like you're done with the team, you don't need to be a part of it anymore. And so now you're just able to like debrief what happened. Now, what I like to think when I think of these stages of team development is if you have a brand new team that has to work together like instantly and be super productive right away, that sounds challenging, right? Because you need to go through these stages to be able to get to that level where everybody's performing. They have to get to know each other. They have to be comfortable expressing opinions and having some healthy conflict. I think there's a difference between healthy and unhealthy conflict, especially in a workplace environment. But if you have a brand new team and everybody doesn't quite know each other yet, you're not going to perform your best. And so there are some places that set up new teams like every 4 weeks for different projects. And unless you've worked with those people before, that is very challenging. All right. So understanding these dynamics is going to help with effective leadership. If you recognize what stage your team is in, you can address challenges head on. For example, during the storming phase, conflicts are inevitable. That's that we're getting comfortable phase, right? But if you use them as opportunities for growth, then you can not only manage the team well, but it helps push you through to that next level where you're starting to get along and you're starting to perform better in your team. As a leader, your role would be to help guide your team through these stages and usher them along, especially during times of conflict, making sure that we stay in the healthy conflict side and not the unhealthy conflict. All right. I'm hoping we have time. I have several more topics to go through. I really want to cover that. So we'll see. We may cut out a piece. I write these scripts months in advance and prepare them. So sometimes I make changes on the fly. All right. Let's talk about how to manage conflict in teams. People think that conflict is harmful, but as we just talked about, healthy conflict can help build a better team. It can be more productive. It can help with brainstorming and getting people's opinions out there. Sometimes more ideas can be better. It just depends, right? So there are two main types of conflict. The first one is task conflict. This is when team members disagree about tasks, strategies, processes, the actual day-to-day of the job. Okay. This conflict can be healthy if it encourages you to have some critical thinking and leads to better solutions. The second type is relationship conflict. And this is when like personalities don't get along. Okay. If there's any kind of personal differences, this I've noticed strikes up a lot when people break that cardinal rule of discussing religion, money, things like that, things where there's obviously going to be some disagreement. That has nothing to do with work, and it will cause this relationship conflict. And so that's where you want to keep an eye on the team, is make sure that the things that they're discussing at work stay within work bounds or outside of those easy to create conflict areas. When you have relationship conflict, it's really hard to come back from. It erodes trust, it damages team morale. That one's the scarier one. Okay, so we really want to be careful with our teams. And this can be you working in the team. Avoid that relationship conflict. You want to get along with everybody as best you can. And try not to have issues where your personal differences get in the way of work, because that's going to be really hard to come back from. Task conflict, as long as handled in a calm and constructive manner, can actually be quite healthy though. So working with your team members on the different tasks and strategies and how you're going to get from A to B in a healthy manner is actually very constructive. Let's see. Yeah, the relationship conflict, it's really hard once it starts. And I do think if handled properly, if all the people involved in the conflict are responsible for their own issues, if they have some emotional intelligence and they want to grow from it, I think you can come back from it. But typically, once you get too far into the relationship conflict, I've found it's really hard to rescue that team. we're all here to do work, right? We're not here to do drama. But something that I try to watch for ahead of time. And I noticed a lot of the time that that seems to cause problems, especially when your team talks behind each other's back. Okay. So if we start to see that happening, we pull everybody into the room and make sure everybody knows where we all stand. Right. If you have an issue with someone, we need to talk it out like grown-ups. All right, let's talk about how to manage conflict in a way that's going to lead to constructive outcomes. The first one is to address conflict early. Don't let it fester. This is super important. I have noticed that, like, let's say we're just super busy and we've got our schedule's really full, our task load is really full, and we know somebody's upset, and we're like, we'll deal with it later. That doesn't go away. It just gets worse. And it ends up actually causing more issues in the long run. It sucks up more payroll, more time, more mental energy if we don't just handle it. And so you can handle it when it's a baby conflict or when it's a big conflict. And obviously, there's a logical choice there. The second one is encourage open communication with your team. You create a safe space where people can talk to each other. I think it's really funny. Everybody feels like they're walking on eggshells and they're really tense. And then I get everybody in a room and make them talk to each other, kind of air what's going on. And everybody leaves that in a much more positive mindset. And then that doorway has been opened and they can communicate on their own after that. And so always encourage that they talk to each other, not about each other. And if there's an issue, if you find out somebody has an issue with you as the leader, discuss that with them in a positive way. Don't come in there and go, I heard you had a problem with me. Don't do that. I want you to do some self-reflection and see what actions you were taking that would cause this person to have that opinion, and then discuss it with them and figure out a way that you guys can compromise and work together. All right. The third one is to focus on the issue, not on the person. Again, why are we upset? Not who is upset is more important. Okay. When you're resolving conflicts, I want you to focus on the issue at hand, not assigning blame. He said this, she said that, she did this is not going to help fix the problem. The problem is why did they get upset in the first place? What's causing this issue between them? If you can avoid assigning blame and avoid your team assigning blame, we call it don't play the blame game. It was on our core values for years. I think we've worded it a little bit more professionally now. But that's what it used to say is don't play the blame game. We don't blame each other because we're all in this together. By keeping your team from assigning blame, this helps keep the conversation productive and solution oriented. All right. Number 4, I want you to find common ground. Help the team members identify areas where they agree. If you list out some different things like so-and-so would never have said this on purpose to hurt your feelings, right? And the person will say, no, never. And then the other one goes, oh, okay, right? And so you find where they agree. And this helps build that connection back up. They have something to cling to. This builds a foundation for resolving the conflict. Number 5 is to use mediation, right? So a neutral third party. Now this, if you are too heavily involved or too close to one of the people on the team, this can actually cause more conflict. So you need to think about that before you choose to use yourself as the mediator. Sometimes a neutral third party is not necessarily you as the best choice. This person would help mediate the conversation, guide them towards a resolution. All right. Now, when conflict arrives, here's a step-by-step process that you can follow to help resolve it constructively. All right. First one, and what's funny is I'm thinking about it, I use a lot of these skills with my sons. I have 2 sons. They are 2 years apart and they fight like crazy. And so I'm constantly using conflict resolution skills with my children. All right. The first one is to identify the issue. What's the root cause of the conflict? sometimes the thing that people are upset about is just the symptom. It's just what happened today, but it's not what caused that rift in their relationship, why these people on the team did not get along. I want you to think about whether it's a task-based conflict or a relationship-based conflict, because that's going to depend on how you handle your part of it. What is the root cause? So that's the first one. Gather perspectives is number 2. So I want you to hear from all parties involved. I like to talk to them separately before I bring them in the same room. I like to hear both sides, and then make sure everyone has a chance to voice their perspective to me. Very helpful. And then 3, collaborative problem solving. Encourage the team to work together to find a solution. I've used the phrase a lot. You both want to work here, right? Because even that small common ground can help rebuild a relationship that's broken. So it doesn't have to be huge. And then once you help them start problem solving how to resolve this conflict, sometimes they can solve it on their own. And then implement the solution. Just because we agree that we're going to do something doesn't mean we always do it. Sometimes people get busy, they forget, they go back into old habits. Once a solution is agreed upon, it's important to make sure it's implemented and that everyone is accountable for the follow through. And then number 5, which is going to be your last step, is to follow up. You'd want to check in with them regularly. I've found that teams don't necessarily like having the boss come sit them down, even if it is healthy and even if it does resolve the problem. It doesn't feel good to have to sit down and do that. Like you feel like a child sometimes. And so if that happens, what'll happen is the next time they have a conflict, they may not say anything. And so that's why it's important for you to kind of pay attention. Has the conflict been resolved? Are there still residual tensions? Do you need to have a neutral third party kind of keep an eye on it so they don't feel like you're watching them, but you care, right? We want everybody to get along. Effective conflict resolution doesn't just fix the problem at hand, and this is the important part. When you have a conflict and your team resolves it and comes through it on the other side, it is a significantly stronger team. This is going to improve future collaboration. And so I don't want you to look at every conflict as a negative opportunity. This is a way to build really strong teams, is to allow them to have healthy conflict and work through it. Now, we're going to talk about team communication. A lot of the times, communication is the problem that leads to the conflict. And so there's some things we can do as the leaders within the team to make sure that we don't have that issue coming up. All right. Keep an eye on the comments. Okay. So let's talk about communication. Communication is the lifeblood of your team. Without clear, open communication, even the most skilled teams can struggle to achieve their goals. Everyone needs to be able to talk to each other in a way that makes you feel heard and understood. There are key components to effective team communication. There are 4 of them. We have clarity, openness, active listening, and feedback. And I'm going to go over what those mean real quick for you. Clarity. Messages should be clear and easy to understand. I want you to avoid ambiguity and assumptions, right? Clarity. Everything should be super clear so that no matter who hears that message, reads that message, they are going to get the exact same words every time. I'm not a fan of using sarcasm or jokes or things like that in communication with my team, because you never know how someone's going to take it. And so whenever possible, you want to be careful with that. The second one is openness. Team members should be comfortable sharing their thoughts and concerns, and I want you to encourage transparency. If everyone feels like everyone's being honest, trust builds so much faster within a team. Active listening is number 3. Listening is just important as speaking. I want to make sure that we're actually paying attention to the people that are talking to us, but also that when you see your team struggling, were they paying attention to each other? Make sure that your team members are truly listening to each other and not just waiting for their turn to talk. Have you ever been in a meeting where everyone looks at their phones until all of a sudden they're raising their hand? Right? That is not active listening. Everybody should be paying attention. 4th one is feedback. Create a culture that constructive feedback is welcome and encouraged. Feedback helps team members improve and keep your projects on track. So I am a huge fan of feedback. I'm a fan of feedback towards the team leader as well as towards the team. And so if you're not getting feedback from your team as the leader, you need to be requesting it. They have opinions, and usually they have knowledge and information that makes their opinions very valid and helpful. And so you can ask for feedback, but if you're not getting it from your team, I think that that's something you should look for. If your team is not giving feedback to each other either, helping each other look for ways to grow and do a better job, that means we need to work on the communication. All right, so here are some barriers to communication. Why would a team not be communicating properly? Because even in the best teams, communication can break down or never build, right? Maybe we never make it past that honeymoon phase. So here are some things that we need to work through if that happens. The first one is assumptions. People might assume they know what other people mean or where they come from, their culture, their background, how they were raised, right? Assuming all these things can cause you to not want to communicate with someone. Lack of clarity, vague instructions, unclear expectations cause confusion. We use the phrase get a rock here all the time. Have we talked about get a rock? Somebody let me know. If not, I'll go over that with you really quickly. But when you don't give clear instructions, you're going to cause your team to deliver you a result that on paper is perfect, but not even close for what you were looking for. Again, let me know if I've told you about getting a rock, because you're going to like that story. If I just don't want to cover it again. We have limited time if you've already heard it. Tina, okay. Let's see. So Tina said, not familiar. Okay, so we'll go over it real quick. Calissa, I love feedback, getting and giving. How would you handle a team member who takes everything super personal and gets defensive? That tells me that that team member needs some emotional intelligence training. That would be the first place I would start with, is helping them grow from emotional intelligence. So why are they taking everything super personal? Maybe they're already aware of their problems and are already beating themselves up, right? And so what do you do in that case if somebody's already internalizing every little piece of drama that comes by them, right? Maybe they were late on a project and that's all it took to beat themselves down. You can't see that necessarily. Just because somebody's upset on the inside doesn't mean on the outside it looks like that. And so if you find that that's the problem, if they're hypersensitive to the feedback, we need to work on building their confidence and their emotional intelligence, if that helps. And emotional intelligence as a leader is a little more intense, right? How do you handle that? It takes time. Sometimes so much time, there's not enough time to help the teammate, and that really sucks when that happens, because then you end up losing that teammate, or the trust gets so broken they can't come back from it. But I always say it's always worth the effort, because even in the end, if it didn't work out, at least you tried to fix the problem. And so I would start with building confidence and emotional intelligence. All right, so my previous life as an operations manager for a major off-price retailer, when they put you through their manager training, they sent all of us from the training room. We're all sitting around, and they sent us all to go get a rock and go down to the lobby, go get us a rock. And there were questions: what kind of rock, what color? Doesn't matter, give me a rock, right? So we all go down. 4 stories, something like that, down to the lobby, down to the front where there's a little garden, and we all go pick out the rock. And everybody's taking their time, right? Picking out the perfect rock. And boy, did I pick out the most perfect rock. It was round and smooth and flat, and you probably could have skipped it across the lake. Like, I was so proud of that rock. And I go upstairs and I bring my rock up and I set it in front of my desk like a good student. Mind you, I'm like 25. I set it in front of myself, all proud, this is my perfect rock. The instructor of that class walks over, looks at my rock, flips it over and goes, nope, not this rock, walks away. And I just, oh gosh, I worked so hard on that rock. And she explained, when I give you no instruction, whose fault is that you got the wrong rock? I didn't tell you what I was looking for. I didn't tell you what size. I didn't tell you what color. I didn't tell you whether it should be smooth or have veins, and what kind of rock am I looking for? And so she said, when you give your team an instruction and you don't give them enough clarity, that's not their fault for not being able to fulfill it to the it was hard, Calissa. It makes it hard for your team to fulfill it to your expectations because they don't know what your expectations are. And so what happens is when a team member, technically speaking, does everything I've given them, like to the T, they followed step by step by step, and it still wasn't the way that I expected, that tells me that I told them to get a rock because I was not clear enough, because technically speaking, they checked every box. And so I want you to think about that the next time, like your good doesn't look like someone else's good. We needed more instruction. We needed clarification. And so that's that, what can cause a barrier to communication. If there's a lack of clarity, imagine how that would feel as an employee, if you worked your heart out on a project, and then your boss comes over and goes, no, not what I was looking for. Right? That's not constructive feedback, but also that's very little emotional intelligence from the supervisor, because you should be aware that this was your fault. You didn't give enough clear instruction. Okay, so no giving out rocks. Hope that was clear enough for everybody. But yeah, though, I mean, I think I still carry some trauma from my rock not being the right rock. It was that important to me. Like, I think I spent 30 minutes picking the perfect rock. All right. So we're going to talk about some ways to improve communication. First one is to set clear expectations. Don't tell them to go get a rock, right? Make sure everybody knows what's expected of them, what the team's goals are, what does good look like, what does done look like, what does perfect look like. Those are some good questions to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Second one is encourage open dialogue. Get everyone talking. They feel comfortable speaking up. They feel comfortable asking questions. Even if they disagree, they feel comfortable communicating. Number 3, structured communication tools. These are your friend. If you guys are messaging each other 14 different places, right? If you've got emails and chats and messengers and phone calls and all these other things, you need to have a very clear way to communicate about what's going on within your project or your company, your team. I am a big fan of having a project management tool like Asana or ClickUp, Trello, things like that, where you can keep all the notes together. Everybody can see what's happening. I also like having written meeting notes and agendas planned out. And for that quick communication, having some kind of chat app. We were using Slack as a team, but I was not a huge fan of it. And so we went to Google Chat, and now we've been very happy. Having a very clear way of when to talk about what can definitely help with communicating with your team, and knowing that everything's written down. You hear that? None of that was over the phone. And if you do speak in person, having a meeting note taker. I have an AI meeting note taker that records. It's just a little recording device, and then it takes the meeting notes back. This can be super helpful because even if you have someone typing meeting notes, they may miss some phrase, something someone said. And so we do both. We have a person take meeting notes, and we have the AI bot take its own meeting notes. And so there's no communication issues there. Let's see. I get that at work. I've been blunt, and I try to point out the point. Some things need to be said to be on the same page. Everybody I work with will not everybody I work with are not on the same page, and we need to be. Well, and so again, I keep coming back to make sure that you're solving the problem, not a symptom. For project, let's see, yes, the lack of communication makes things harder to get things done. Well, and it can cause morale problems, because imagine if you think that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do, and then find out that because of the words that your supervisor used, there was a miscommunication. And now you have to redo days and days and days or weeks and weeks of work. That can cause a morale problem for your team. Our company uses ClickUp for project management. We were using the ClickUp tools. For me, it's kind of like Asana and Notion had a baby. It has all the same tools pretty much as Notion and all the same tools as Asana, and I can do it all in one place. And so we use that for meeting notes, for all of our docs, plus all of our tasks. And I'm a big fan. So, okay, moving on. All right, so the last one, we talked about having structured communication tools, but number 4 is check for understanding. Make sure everyone understands. This can be as simple as having people reiterate back to you what you discussed. What are we going to do? What is our plan moving forward? Okay. All right, let's talk about psychological safety, and then we're going to wrap up for today because we are running a little longer. I will try to shove that other thing I wanted to teach you into next week's and move some stuff around so I can give you a slide because I really think a graphic's going to really help with that training. All right, so psychological safety. One of the most important elements of healthy team dynamics is psychological safety. This means that team members feel safe to express their thoughts, to share their ideas, to make mistakes without the fear of judgment or retaliation. They feel safe psychologically. They're safe to be creative, innovative, resilient. When people feel safe, they're more likely to speak up, ask questions, and contribute to problem solving. What is the opposite of a psychologically safe work environment? It's a toxic work environment. Okay. So here's what you can do as the leader or as the unofficial leader to help create an environment where your team feels psychologically safe. The first one is to model vulnerability. I am the first to tell you when I screw up. You'll notice I've done this before, even as in the group. I'll be like, that was me. I did the thing. I'm sorry, right? Sometimes we make mistakes. It's totally okay to make mistakes. It's how we fix them. It's how we recover from them. It's did we take ownership over what we did and that we don't want to do it again? That kind of thing. Being open about your own mistakes, being vulnerable and admitting when you've made an error can really lead your team to want to do that too. It also shows that it's okay. The second one is encourage open discussion. I want you to make sure your team knows that all ideas and perspectives are welcome, even if they challenge the status quo. Okay. Sometimes people will bring me an idea that is obviously a no for me. I can't do it. There's no way, right? I still want them to bring me the idea because they won't learn how I make that decision if we don't have the opportunity to discuss it. Okay. The third one is to reward curiosity and risk taking. Even if it's a bad idea, the idea of people learning and growing and trying, that shows passion. Why would you, we call it kicking the puppy. Don't kick the puppy, right? If they're excited, we want to reward them. You did a great job. Thank you so much for, for having the curiosity to look for a better way. Unfortunately, we can't go that way, but we're so proud of you. I want you to keep up this good work, right? Celebrate their curiosity and their learning, even if it's going to lead to a mistake. And then respond constructively to those mistakes. Don't start yelling and throwing things. When mistakes happen, I want you to focus on the learning element of it rather than the blaming element. Clearly, when people made a mistake, the leader probably didn't communicate properly or didn't make sure that there was understanding. Maybe there wasn't enough follow-up throughout the process, right? It doesn't always come down to the employee making the mistake or the team member making the mistake. Sometimes it comes from the leader. And so we don't want to just point the finger and be like, you screwed up. I want you to always be looking for ways that we can learn from those mistakes. Don't ask who's responsible. This went wrong. How do we not do it again? Why did it go wrong? Those are much more healthy questions. Okay. Let's see. Supervisors in my job seriously need to work on structure to make things better with everything we need to do. The environment shouldn't be toxic because it affects not just work, but at home. Well, exactly. You don't feel psychologically safe. My advice, Andrea, if you are not one of the leaders, it sure sounds like you could be an unofficial leader from the way your comments come through, which is wonderful. Usually unofficial leaders are close to getting promoted anyway, but that's a aside. Anyway, I would say if you're having a lot of struggle with your work environment, model the behaviors you want to see in your team, even if it's not like, even if you're not a supervisor. The people that you work with, pay attention to you. Everybody wants to be like the people that are around them. Haven't you heard that? You are what you hang with. Be the one that they become because they're hanging with someone who lives by example. And whenever you have an idea on how to improve the dynamics within the team, even though you're maybe not the supervisor, you can still use those skills. You can give those ideas to the team, to the supervisor. Everybody wants to do a better job. And most of the time, if you're in a toxic work environment, either people don't even notice, they're too busy, don't even notice, or they don't know how to fix it anyway. And then the third thing is maybe they have very low emotional intelligence and don't realize that they caused the problem. And that's an even bigger challenge, right? Emotional intelligence, you have to start from the inside. Okay. So when a team member feels psychologically safe, they're more likely to share their ideas, take ownership over their work, ask for help when they need it, and offer constructive feedback for others, right? The ideal teammate. So let's help make everybody around us feel psychologically safe when it comes to our team performance. They're not only, when you feel psychologically safe on a team, you're more productive, but you're also more adaptive and resilient in the face of challenges. All right. So if you started late, you can go back and watch the replay. Today we covered the importance of understanding and managing your team's dynamics, how to handle conflict in a constructive way, how clear communication, the role of clear communication and strategies to improve it, and the value of psychological safety within your team. And so, like I said, whether you're the leader or the teammate, I think it's very important to have these tools in your toolbox because you will use them at one point. And so your homework from this lesson is I want you to kind of reflect on the team dynamics. What stage is your team in? Where are they at? Are they in the honeymoon phase? How can you help them move to the next stage? And then I want you to identify a recent conflict within your team and outline a conflict resolution plan. You don't actually have to use it, but I want you to do the steps of thinking about it, okay? And so you're going to go back up to where we talked about the different steps to resolving conflict. And then start implementing at least one strategy to improve communication or help increase the psychological safety within your team. Like I said, lead by example, guys. All right, so that's the end of this week's lesson. Next week, we're talking about leadership for the future. I'm going to be talking about different ways that team dynamics need to adapt over time. And I'm hoping I'm going to squish in that extra thing I need to teach you. So come back and see me next week for that. Otherwise, if you are a subscriber, I am going to be going live on Wednesday to give you your first peek of the March subscription box. So that will be in the Facebook group or sent out later on replay via email. And then I am not going live on Thursday. Instead, I'll be live on Friday for a special edition. I'm very excited. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this content, please like this video. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel and that you tap the bell icon if you want to be notified. Otherwise, I will see you later this week. Thank you, everybody, for watching.